It all starts in a local tavern. Over by the tables, a bald guy is gossiping about a rumor he heard regarding the youngest daughter of the Tang clan, Tang Sowol, who apparently just made her debut in the martial arts world. He confirms she's ridiculously skilled and drop-dead gorgeous, adding that her stepping into the martial world is already huge news everywhere. The bald guy keeps going, explaining that from what he's heard, the girl was actually born with the super rare poison spirit body. The merchant next to him is completely shocked and asks if that kind of body type even exists, but his buddy tells him to calm down, saying it's just a rumor and nobody knows if it's actually true. He wraps up by saying that even though the clan has tons of enemies, anyone reckless enough to mess with her while she's traveling alone is going to learn a very painful lesson. Right at that moment, our MC finishes up his meal. He stands up to leave, complimenting the dumplings and asking the host to pack an extra order to go. After that, he heads out carrying his bagged dumplings. Meanwhile, two shady guys stare him down as if they're suspicious of something. Ignoring them, the MC starts hiking up toward the mountains. As he walks, he thinks to himself that the rumors about Tang Sowol's beauty and her poisoned constitution are actually pretty accurate. But there are two major details people got wrong. First, even though it looks like she's traveling all by herself, elite secret guardians from her clan are actually trailing her every move for safety. Second, even though she was born with that special constitution, her actual combat ability right now isn't impressive at all. The MC explains that he knows all of this for one simple reason. He had simply kidnapped the girl himself. Yeah, our MC certainly doesn't waste any time. Seeing him arrive, the girl instantly grows restless. But to understand how all of this went down, we need to rewind the clock a bit. Before reincarnating, the MC was known for being absolutely ruthless. Back then, people called him feared titles like the Blood Wolf. Another terrifying name they used for him was the Sword Demon, a relentless warrior who left nothing but broken weapons and total destruction in his wake. He picked up a blade over 10 years ago just to survive starvation, and by the time he climbed to the peak of the martial world all on his own, he had never shown a single drop of mercy or human warmth. Without even realizing it, he became a figure feared across the entire world, constantly surrounded by a trail of chaos. The demon accepted that his fate was to carry the bitter grudges of his endless battles to the end, assuming his life would finish in that exact same violent way. That entire story of loneliness and destruction went on like that until the day the man who called himself the Heavenly Demon finally appeared. That man acted like a walking disaster, devastating the Central Plains and wiping out entire factions, being the greatest warrior of all time. He plunged the world into an era of complete chaos, where the only thing that mattered to survivors on both sides was standing together. It was at the end of that path of ruin that the MC finally met the Poison Mist Empress, Tang Sowol. Since she was the sole survivor of her clan, and he had absolutely nothing left, it didn't take long for the two of them to grow close and build a real bond. Living together day after day made their relationship deeper and deeper, eventually sparking genuine feelings in both of them. On a night with a full moon, the MC asks Tang if she really has to leave. She explains that the absolute rule of the Tang clan is to return kindness double and pay back tenfold, stating that it's her duty to avenge her family. The MC looks down a bit sad upon hearing that, seeing him stay silent. She smiles and reminds him that the old him would have flipped out and asked if her clan rules mattered more than her own life. The guy calmly answers that he only kept quiet because he knows full well she wouldn't give up on her mission even if he begged her on his knees. Even with the MC completely against it, Tang was totally set on going. She seriously explains that taking on such a powerful enemy isn't just about personal revenge. The girl reveals that with her current skills, she can save at least one person, and that person is him, so she begs him to stay alive. The MC then asks her to look at him. Right after that, he gently moves away, the hair covering her right eye. Revealing a massive scar underneath, the girl gets a little self-conscious. However, our MC is an absolute romantic at heart, and he simply strokes her face without saying a single word. The girl flusters at all that affection, and that's when the MC tells her that he's coming with her. Tang is instantly taken aback and begs him not to risk his life, but he responds that his belief that living is better than dying hasn't changed one bit. The guy smiles and adds that a world without her in it is simply a place he couldn't stand to live in. Man, this MC is smooth. I really hope this doesn't turn into a harem anime. He reassures her with total confidence that they'll both definitely make it back alive, leaving the young lady completely stunned and speechless. Tang Sowol bursts out laughing and apologizes, saying she found his dramatic speech pretty funny, which leaves the MC looking a little pouting. She offers a beautiful smile and mentions that despite everything, she thought she already knew him inside out after all their time together. The The guy reflects out loud that people change over time, and that definitely applies to both him and her Tang. Sowol grabs his hand and suggests that if that's the case, they'll just have to start getting to know each other again from square one. She starts pulling him along by the hand, asking him to follow her, which leaves the guy completely confused about where they're heading. With a shy smile on her face, the young lady looks back and calmly responds that they're heading straight to her bedroom. She adds that they have a lot of things to talk about and that doing it out in the open wouldn't be very appropriate, leaving our MC totally embarrassed. The scene shifts to reveal the magnificent and imposing palace of the Tang clan resting under the soft night sky. The MC stares up at the full moon, noting that even though it looks gorgeous, the clouds are covering it up pretty well right now. As they rest together, Tang Sowol mentions that even though her entire clan was wiped out, it actually gave them the chance to rebuild even better pavilions. The guy gets a little confused and repeats her words, but she confirms with joy that they're really going to build brand new terraces together. With eyes full of hope, the girl promises that next time, they'll watch the most beautiful moon in the world together from those new balconies. The guy just smiles back tenderly, feeling completely comforted by her sweet and gentle words. The full moon shines brightly in the night sky, illuminating the dark night in a majestic way. Suddenly, that peaceful memory is brutally shattered by the terrible vision of a deadly blow driving right through someone's chest. The MC watches helplessly as the awful sight unfolds, Tang Sowol falling mortally wounded right in front of the unstoppable heavenly demon desperate over the tragedy happening before his eyes. The guy promises the young lady that everything will be fine. Even though he knows how hopeless the situation really is, the girl begins to cough up blood and slowly collapses onto the ground, which was already completely painted in deep red. Even in her final moments, Tang Sowol looks up at the MC with a sweet, comforting smile on her blood-stained lips, consumed by sheer pain and the rage of losing the one he loved most. The guy slams his fist into the ground with all his strength. Overcome by absolute fury, he screams at the top of his lungs that he's going to destroy the enemy, charging forward like crazy to land a sword strike. However, the heavenly demon dodges the furious attack with total ease, demonstrating overwhelming superiority. The MC gets blasted back by the counterattack and ends up collapsing, completely defeated in the middle of a red pool. With no strength left to fight on, he begins to slowly sink into the darkness of that crimson lake under the full moon. He bitterly realizes that neither her strikes nor his ultimate attack, let alone their promise to watch the moon together, were ever able to touch the villain. As he sinks deeper into the red lake created by all his accumulated baggage, the sword demon accepts that this is his tragic end. He regrets not having more time or strength to defeat his enemy, watching his lingering regrets simply fade away into thin air. Suddenly, the MC gasps awake in terror, bursting out from the clear waters of a river and desperately reaching for air. He realizes he's alive and coughing in the middle of a clean stream, completely baffled by what just took place. The guy starts checking his wet body and notices that his skin feels way younger and firmer than it should be. Shocked as he stares down at his tiny hands, he asks himself, what on earth is happening to him in this place? The guy explains that for some mysterious reason, he ended up traveling 20 years back into the past, so he used all his previous experience to get his strength back fast. He used his immense power to crush the criminal syndicates that used to plague him back in the day, managing to hoard a healthy amount of resources. And it was that exact journey of getting stronger that brought him all the way to the present, where he finally managed to catch the young Tang Sowol back inside the cave. The MC looks at the tied-up girl with a slightly awkward and thoughtful expression. Still gagged with a piece of bamboo, young Tang Sowol shoots a glare of pure fury and annoyance straight at her captor. The guy thinks to himself that she looks pretty different from the picture he held in his memories, realizing this was her younger, spunky self. The girl starts thrashing around again, grunting loudly through the gag, which finally convinces him to step closer. Calmly, the MC reaches out his hand and gently removes the piece of bamboo blocking the young prisoner's mouth. She spits to clear her mouth, and he warns her that screaming won't do any good inside this cave. Plus, it's impossible to break the seal on her energy points anyway. The girl takes a deep breath, staring the guy down with total seriousness as she tries to process the messy situation she's stuck in. Tang Sowol asks what his whole goal is here, questioning if he even realizes how dangerous it is to make an enemy out of the Tang clan. The guy says he knows her clan's rules inside and out, and tells her she can drop the formal talk since she's actually older than him right now. She totally flips out and screams that no teenager talks like that, accusing the MC of being some disguised old master who de-aged himself just to kidnap young girls for some weird obsession. Turning bright red from embarrassment, she asks if his real plan is to take advantage of her, claiming she noticed the way he was scanning her up and down, running out of patience for her dramatic accusations. The MC grabs the bamboo piece once again. He shoves the gag right back into her mouth and sarcastically asks if she's always been this much of a chatterbox. To clear up any misunderstandings, the guy explains that he really is 15 years old and that he didn't kidnap her to cause harm, but rather to protect her. The young lady listens in silence with a surprised and thoughtful look, trying to decide whether or not to buy those words. She asks who he's supposedly trying to protect her from, and the guy admits he doesn't know the exact details, but guarantees there are people coming for her. Tang So-wol shouts in disbelief, asking who in their right mind would have the nerve to target a direct bloodline of the mighty Tang clan. He tells her he doesn't expect her to believe him right away, and that time will prove the truth, asking her to just follow him quietly for now. The girl falls completely silent with a serious gaze, pondering everything she just heard from this mysterious guy. The guy recalls that in his past life, she was ambushed by clan enemies and had half her face burned by her own poison, something he's determined to prevent this time around. With a sneaky grin, Tang So-wol sarcastically remarks that since he has reasons to keep her alive and well, that changes the game entirely. She warns him that she's no fool to trust a kidnapper's words, promising she'll find a loophole to escape and that he won't get a single penny in ransom. The MC lets out a soft sigh and smiles, remembering how stubborn and difficult to handle the young lady had always been. Tang So-wol trembles with frustration and warns him that if he lays a single finger on her, he'll bitterly regret it, thanks to the power and resolve of the Tang clan. The guy takes a seat and calmly says he won't stop her if she wants to try running, but asks if she's really sure she won't just get captured again with her current skill level. Hearing those provocative and mocking words, the girl gets extremely annoyed and yells out asking what he meant by that. He challenges her, saying that if she wants to talk big, she should first try breaking the energy seal he placed on her. Trying to break the seal. The girl's eyes widen as she realizes she genuinely can't do a single thing against his technique. She starts wriggling awkwardly in an attempt to free her hands, all under the watchful, relaxed eye of the young MC. Suddenly, the young lady's entire attitude flips, breaking out in a cold sweat as she shyly and embarrassedly asks him to hold on for just 1 minute. The guy sarcastically asks if things aren't going the way she wanted, and she stammers while trying to explain her awkward situation. Tang So-wol begs him to unseal her energy for just a tiny bit, but he questions why he should help someone who just openly declared they're trying to escape. The girl drops her head, turning completely red from embarrassment and approaching total desperation, unsure how to handle her super awkward problem. Dying of embarrassment, she finally confesses her urgent biological need, asking if she could use the chamber pot stored in that far corner. The MC is left standing there with a completely deadpan face as he realizes the actual reason behind all her dramatic panic. The scene shifts to show the treetops against a bright blue sky, with clouds slowly drifting by, marking the passage of time. Outside the cave, a lovely waterfall flows peacefully into the river amidst the quiet, tranquil nature of the area. The guy waits patiently outside the cave entrance, looking a bit uncomfortable with the whole awkward setup. From inside, Tang So-wol timidly asks what she's supposed to do with the used pot, leaving the guy feeling pretty awkward himself. He yells back for her to just leave the pot where it is, promising he'll handle the cleanup duty later. The guy reflects that their very first impression of each other in this new life has officially crossed a point of no return thanks to this bizarre situation. A short while later, Tang So-wol walks up and bluntly announces that she's starving and needs to eat something right away. The guy stares at her in silence with a blank face, seemingly predicting the headaches that were about to follow her complaint. The two sit down on the stone floor of the cave to discuss their food shortage and overall survival situation inside. The MC offers her a few fasting pills, but she immediately rejects them with a yell, claiming that isn't real food. The guy tries to convince her that the pills become totally edible if you dissolve them in water, but she complains that lately they haven't had even thin porridge to eat. He just watches her in silence with a tired expression, having no idea how to respond to the girl's hungry fury. The guy asks if she remembers how she was treated when she got kidnapped, and she fires back saying at least he admits this is a kidnapping. She notes that her weapons and poisons strangely didn't work against him, and the guy asks how she thinks he managed to resist the Tang clan's techniques. She guesses he used special anti-poison wine, but the MC reminds her again that he's only 15 and definitely not some de-aged old master. The young lady then asks if he knows how much a single bottle of that special wine costs, explaining that 5 bottles cost an entire silver bar. Her eyes suddenly pop open as she does the quick mental math regarding his crazy expenses so far. Tang Sowol puts two and two together and asks in horror if the guy seriously spent everything he had just to buy that expensive supply. The MC looks away in total embarrassment, breaking into a nervous sweat as he has to admit his financial blunder. He finally gathers the courage and quietly confesses that he ended up completely broke and can't afford any more supplies. The camera focuses on the guy's totally empty coin pouch lying on the dirt floor of the cave in a pretty pathetic way. The girl asks in disbelief how much money he started with in the first place, and he timidly replies that he only had 4 silver bars. She asks how much he spent buying the special resistance wine, and the guy gloomily admits he blew 2 silver bars on it. Tang Sowol asks how long he planned to stay in the cave, and how long they've been there already, and he says he planned for a month and 2 weeks have passed. Hearing his totally amateur answer, the girl completely loses her cool and screams asking if he's an absolute idiot. She yells furiously, asking if he only used his brain to learn martial arts and forgot to learn basic math, but he insists there's always a way out, sick of arguing. The girl sighs and says she'd rather trust a wine-drinking monk than him, suggesting they use her money to buy food instead. Tang So-wol goes dead silent, staring at the guy with a look of pure disappointment and mental exhaustion at his financial stupidity. The guy asks where the money is, and she answers that her pouch is tucked behind her waist sash, suggesting he untie her arm so she can grab it. He ignores her suggestion and warns that he'll grab the money himself, leaving the young lady startled and asking him to wait. The MC leans in way too close to her face to search for the money, leaving the girl frozen in place with blushing cheeks. He starts rummaging around and complains that her hidden weapons are getting in the way, asking where on earth the pouch actually is while she lets out a quiet squeak. Turning completely red, the girl mutters with her head down that the pouch is hidden right behind her right side. She closes her eyes in deep embarrassment as she feels him searching close around her waist for the cash. Super flustered, the girl asks in a shaky voice for him to just find the money already as fast as possible. Finally, the guy's hand reaches in and pulls out the nicely decorated coin pouch she was carrying. The MC admires the pouch and comments that the wealth of the 5 great families is even bigger than he imagined, while the girl fumes with rage behind him. Annoyed, she calls him a shameless creep, but the guy defends himself saying that's not true and asks her to stop making up weird nicknames. The guy mentions he's heading down to the local village and asks if she needs anything, while she grumbles that he's pretending to be generous using her own money. She asks for clean clothes and something soft to line the hard cave floor, and the guy calmly replies that he'll keep her requests in mind. The girl demands actual real food and makes it clear she can't stand eating those terrible steamed buns anymore, but the guy says he thought they tasted all right. She actually feels bad for him and comments that living off fasting pills must have completely ruined his taste buds, leaving him speechless. The guy remarks that she complains a lot for a kidnap victim and tells her to eat whatever she gets, making her gasp and beg not to eat steamed buns again. The scene shifts to show the guy arriving at a beautiful, bustling ancient village surrounded by mountains during the day. Using his straw hat to hide his face, the MC starts doing some shopping at the village market with the money he grabbed. He hikes back, carrying a wooden crate on his back, remembering he doesn't know exactly when the enemies will strike the Tang clan girl. The guy had already decided to keep her safe for at least a month, knowing full well she wouldn't easily trust a total stranger like him. Back in the cave, the girl thinks to herself that even though she doesn't fully trust his promise of protection, the guy's eyes don't look like those of someone with bad motives. As he feeds her, Tang So-wol asks if he knows a lot about her, and the guy just answers cryptically that he knows enough. She silently reflects that, on the flip side, she knows absolutely nothing about the life or identity of the mysterious young man in front of her. The girl smiles and suggests it would only be fair for him to share about himself too, saying that getting to know one another is a great way to build trust. The MC watches her thoughtfully, touched by how similar that phrase is to the conversations they used to have in his past life. He fondly recalls how the older version of her would constantly repeat that they needed to get to know each other better to strengthen their bond. The guy thinks to himself that even though the girl from the past and this young girl seem like different people, she's still essentially the same as always. With a subtle smile hidden under his straw hat, he hikes back through the lush, sunny forest feeling genuinely happy. He continues walking through the dense woods, carrying the wooden box on his back, keeping a sharp eye on his surroundings. The sun shines brightly over the entrance of the rocky cave, hidden in the middle of the quiet forest, isolated from the outside world back in the cave. The MC's hand reaches out holding a gorgeous, glowing purple flower to show the girl. Tang So-wol stares at the flower with a neutral, confused look, not really understanding why she's suddenly getting this gift shyly. She says giving flowers is a bit of a huge jump for their current stage, but the guy asks her to stop jumping to weird conclusions and just listen. He reveals that it's the purple flower poison purifying herb, leaving the girl completely shocked and unable to believe her eyes. She excitedly explains that this spiritual herb doubles poison potency and is coveted by all martial artists, asking where on earth he managed to find it. Truth is, the guy remembers that she was the one who found the flower in the past while fleeing here, so he just used that info to search for the plant on his way back. He casually comments that he got lucky finding the rare herb along the path, leaving the girl's eyes sparkling with pure happiness and awe. The MC asks if she can absorb the plant and hands it over, leaving the young lady curious about how he knows so much about her body type. The guy responds that her constitution isn't exactly a massive secret, and the girl decides it's not worth second-guessing everything anymore. Determined to use the gift, the young lady slowly leans closer to the purple flower the guy is holding right in front of her. She gently touches her tongue to the petals of the spiritual flower to start absorbing the beneficial properties of the poison. With her cheeks slightly pink, Tang So-wol continues licking the spiritual plant with intense focus and care. She bites right into the purple petals to extract all the concentrated energy contained within the rare herb. The young lady savors the plant with an approving look, while the guy watches her with a slightly stunned expression, unsure what to say. She praises the incredible quality of the herb and mentions it will take about a month to fully absorb everything, surprising the guy with how long the process takes. Tang So-wol playfully explains that poison arts aren't magic spells that happen in the blink of an eye, and the guy ends up agreeing with her. She warns that consuming a spiritual herb on an empty stomach might give her indigestion and demands he give her something to eat first, which the guy quickly accepts. The MC pulls out a steamed bun identical to the previous ones and asks if she's fine with this, leaving the girl visibly horrified and depressed. Faking excitement, she says she missed the steamed bun and agrees to eat, opening her mouth to accept the food he offers. The young MC uses wooden chopsticks to feed the girl patiently since her arms are still tied up as she eats. The guy reflects that if she takes her time consuming the flower this time, her body will have time to process the poison without melting her own face. As she eats, the guy remains focused on his thoughts about what he needs to do while they stay here. However, his hand holding the chopsticks to feed her suddenly freezes mid-air. Tang So-wol looks super surprised and confused seeing the food stop right in front of her mouth with zero explanation. She asks why he paused his hand, but the guy just asks with total seriousness for her to hold on a second. A strong gust of wind starts blowing through the mountains surrounding the cave, rustling the tree leaves in a suspicious way. With his senses sharpened from his past life experiences, the guy immediately senses strange movement in the forest. He apologizes for the interruption and orders her to start absorbing the purple flower right this second, leaving the girl startled and clueless. The MC keeps a locked, extremely serious gaze, focusing all his attention on the threat closing in. Outside the cave, a group of armed, dangerous-looking men silently emerges. Eyeing the entrance, the leader of the group, an imposing man with white hair and facial scars, remarks with a cold glare that the long-awaited day has finally arrived. The wind keeps blowing hard over the massive green forest surrounding the large rocky mountains of the area. Among the enemies, a bald man with a menacing glare and a gray-haired swordsman gear up to take action. Two other armed warriors, including a red-haired young guy, watch the cave entrance with wicked smirks. With their blades already drawn, the squad of assassins begins marching straight toward the cave entrance where the two are staying. The guy steps firmly in front of Tang So-wol with his sword in hand, ready to defend her against any incoming attack. The young lady starts breaking out in a nervous sweat seeing the sheer number of enemies, while the guy maintains a completely calm, cold posture. She whispers in panic that absorbing the flower right now could cause a violent reaction in her body, suggesting they run away to do it later. The MC responds that the flower's effectiveness drops over time, and they have no way to avoid fighting or predict when they can escape. He insists the best move is for her to absorb the flower now and fight using only hidden weapon techniques, and the girl decides to trust him despite her doubts. The guy tells her not to worry because he has a plan, promising he'll do whatever it takes to get her back home safely. With firm, decisive steps, the guy takes a stride forward out of the cave to confront the enemies surrounding them. The white-haired leader steps forward, emanating a threatening energy, staring down the young MC with high intensity. The leader comments that he's never seen his face before and points out he doesn't look like an official member of the mighty Tang clan. With a calm, mocking tone, the guy simply answers that the enemies did a good job managing to find them in this hiding spot. The leader explains that a guy buying terrible steamed buns at the market meant for 2 people always draws attention, and anyone buying those would raise suspicions Tang So-wol, and the guy pulled deadpan faces, and he mutters under his breath that he actually thought the buns tasted pretty good. The white-haired man points a finger and says they only have business with the Tang clan heiress, questioning why the guy is acting like her bodyguard. He promises that if the guy hands over the girl without a fight, they'll let him walk away in peace, but the MC just stares back with an icy glare. The leader's gaze turns even darker and more focused as he notices the silent resistance from the young man standing before him. Seeing the determination in the MC's eyes, the white-haired swordsman realizes that silent refusal serves as his answer. The man asks if he's ever heard of the famous title, the 100-Kill Swordsman, and the guy coldly replies it's his first time hearing it. The leader shares that this was the title of his master, who was killed 20 years ago by the Tang clan, riddling him with hidden weapons and slaying him brutally in front of his eyes. Hearing the reveal of the man's terrible grudge against her family, Tang So-wol flinches and starts sweating from worry. He admits his master was a cruel monster who killed innocent people and that the Tang clan's punishment was fair, but even so, he was still his master. The guy and the young lady listen in complete silence to the honest, grudge-filled story of that relentless warrior. The leader states with eyes burning in hatred that despite all the atrocities committed by the villain, he was still his only family. He tells them that back when he was a miserable orphan in the snow, his master was the only one who gave him food, shelter, and taught him martial arts. The man reveals that before the Tang clan's attack, his master slashed his right eye so he'd look like just another innocent victim of the villain. He cries, remembering he had to beg for his life in front of his master's killers just to survive as the foolish disciple. The warrior explains he did all of that just to survive back then, exactly as his late master had planned out for him. He points to his comrades, saying everyone there is the same, men living solely to repay 100 times over the hatred they received from the Tang clan. Raising his sword with resolve, the man says that if the guy understands honor, he should realize that grudges and rivalries can never be erased. While Tang So-wol cowers in fear behind him, the MC keeps listening to everything with a totally calm, analytical expression. The guy quietly reflects that he knows all too well how human beings are incapable of escaping the endless cycle of revenge and hatred. He thinks to himself that there are no absolute heroes or villains in the world, and that grudges act like a spiderweb spreading from person to person. With firm resolve, the MC tightens his grip on his sword hilt. Knowing full well the tragic fate waiting for him if he fails, he remembers the world of ruin and blood created by the web of hatred in his past life, with the heavenly demon ruling over the corpses. The guy maintains his focused, melancholic gaze, determined not to let that tragedy of the past repeat itself in this second chance at life. The leader asks one more time for the guy to step aside if he understands the situation, saying he doesn't want to create more traumatized, hate-filled people like himself. Ignoring the enemy's warning, the young MC begins calmly unsheathing his sword, ready to start the life-or-death battle. As he holds the hilt of his blade, a dark energy begins coating the edge like condensed drops of blood. The guy and Tang So-wol become surrounded by a crimson aura of pure killing intent, creating a tense vibe in the darkness. The enemies who were stepping closer feel that terrifying pressure and freeze immediately, looking terrified toward the cave. Sweating nervously and trembling in fear, the warriors can barely breathe, facing the overwhelming presence surging from the young guy. From their point of view, the MC looks like a genuine monster holding a sword, blanketing the entire forest in his rage. Feeling a terrible tightness in their chests and suffocated by the killing intent, a few enemies fall to their knees on the ground, unable to fight. The white-haired leader breaks into a cold sweat, asking himself what on earth this monstrous power coming from such a young kid is. Tang So-wol watches the guy's back with a deeply shocked gaze, not understanding how he can carry so much hidden power. With eyes glowing red, the guy thinks that if revenge is an unavoidable fate, he'll use all his determination to win. He tosses 2 large smoke bombs toward the assassins, launching the escape plan in a fast, smart way. The bombs detonate, creating a massive curtain of white smoke covering the entire area, leaving the enemies completely disoriented. Coughing and covering their noses with their hands, the warriors yell out in panic, thinking they're being attacked by poison gas. However, analyzing the smoke up close, the leader realizes it's nothing more than a distraction to hide the real attack. Suddenly, dozens of small daggers and hidden weapons come flying at high speed through the white smoke straight at them. Several assassins are hit dead on by the hidden weapons, falling to the ground severely injured and coughing blood from the surprise attack. The leader warns everyone that it's just a smokescreen, and the real danger is the hidden weapons, ordering them to prepare to defend themselves. One of the enemy warriors tries to brush off the attack, calling it a futile attempt, only to get fatally struck in the neck right after another red-haired swordsman gets caught off guard and ends up brutally slashed, spraying blood with a look of pure panic. The guy emerges from the smoke like a swift shadow with red eyes, landing fast, precise strikes against all the enemies around. The struck warriors scream in pain and desperation, facing the speed and relentless violence of the MC's attacks inside the fog. With cold, lethal movements, he keeps slicing through enemies one by one, showing zero hesitation or mercy in his actions. He spins his body around fast and connects another fatal blow on another assassin, sending blood flying through the air amidst the battlefield chaos. The guy keeps his eyes locked and red with intensity, totally focused on eliminating every single threat to keep the young lady safe. Furious seeing his men get slaughtered like that, the white-haired leader roars loudly and charges full energy straight at him. The two warriors' swords clash violently, generating a huge shockwave that blows away the surrounding leaves and dust. The leader yells that he'll handle the guy personally and orders his remaining men to take the chance to capture the Tang clan girl. The remaining assassins follow orders immediately, sprinting toward the cave to grab the girl while the leader keeps the MC busy with a fast footstep. The guy slides across the ground, backing up to defend the cave entrance and block the enemy's advance. He takes his stance in the middle of the woods, while the white-haired swordsman charges relentlessly toward him with his blade raised to strike. The MC gathers his power, getting wrapped in a scary black flame of pure spiritual energy, ready to release his full strength. Seeing his state, the leader comments he's now certain the guy is nowhere near being a cultivator of the righteous martial path. He questions why someone from the dark path would protect the Tang clan heiress out of loyalty, while the MC keeps accumulating energy. With a red glare, the guy replies he isn't doing this out of loyalty, adding that the enemy wouldn't understand his reasons even if he explained. Feeling the oppressive aura grow by the second, the enemy leader backs up a step in fear from the drastic shift in the young guy's power. A massive pillar of dark crimson energy explodes around the MC, revealing the true scale of his destructive power. He warns that swordsmen communicate through their blades, and if the enemy can't understand that, he'll be cut down and perish right here. That entire terrifying projection of dark energy begins to slowly dissipate, revealing that the conversation was taking place inside the cave. The guy calmly sheathes his sword, returning to his normal state after demonstrating his combat skills to the young lady. Tang So-wol remains frozen with a pale face from sheer shock, completely terrified by the display of power she just witnessed. He asks why she has that shocked face if he already explained everything before, but she yells back saying it's impossible not to be terrified by that. The guy explains that it's his killing intent control technique, used to drastically boost his reflexes and physical capabilities. He assures her she doesn't need to worry about energy deviation, but the young lady asks if she can really trust someone with such terrifying power. The MC promises she can trust him without fear, as he already mastered and surpassed the control stage of that technique a long time ago. The girl looks at him with a confused, doubt-filled gaze, still deeply impressed by the mysteries surrounding this highly skilled teenager. The scene shifts back to the present, showing the actual enemies finally attacking, and the girl leaps nimbly through the air to dodge the assassin's blades. She uses her quick reflexes to evade the coordinated strikes of the invaders, proving she also knows how to defend herself very well in combat. With precise movements, the girl manages to repel the attacks and knock down a few of the enemy henchmen effortlessly during the forest fight. As she fights, she thinks to herself that even though she doesn't know what kind of life he lived, she's certain someone with that scary internal energy never knew peace. The young lady concludes that if he's risking his own life this much to protect her, she has a moral duty to repay this massive favor double in the future. With a determined look locked on the battlefield, Tang So-wol holds a sincere wish for the young guy to stay safe in this fight. The 100-kill swordsman charges with his blade, determined never to violate the rules of the Tang clan. With his red eyes glowing with resolve, the MC readies himself to hold off the incoming assault. The two warriors' blades clash violently, sending a burst of sparks flying through the woods. They lock intense stares just inches apart while trying to overpower each other's blade. The impact of the collision forces them to push back fast and reset their fighting stances. The white-haired swordsman backs up and lands on high ground, overlooking his opponent from above. The leader admits he was surprised by that inhuman aura, but claims the guy's raw skill is only average. He taunts the teenager, asking if he's already feeling the unbreakable limits of his current realm. The MC reflects that a warrior's realm doesn't matter, because a blade through the heart finishes anyone just the same. The enemy swordsman scoffs at the guy's response, saying he talks as if he were actually capable of reaching him. The leader begins gathering a powerful reddish energy around his massive curved blade. The MC identifies that technique as saber chi, something completely different from his own energy emission. He knows that technique channels energy strictly into the blade and can only be used by those who reached the peak realm. Even facing such a powerful technique, the guy stays calm because he's already decoded his opponent's sword style. The MC dashes forward like lightning, exploding in speed to kick off a relentless combo of strikes. He masterfully ducks under a devastating slash that grazes right over his head. The two exchange high-speed attacks, steel clashing repeatedly amidst a haze of dust and energy. One of the blades brushes extremely close to the MC's face, leaving a small, shallow cut on his cheek. The enemy gets startled, realizing that even wounded, the teenager didn't hesitate to keep pressing forward. The white-haired warrior flips mid-air to escape the young, dark-clad guy's deadly counterattack. He recovers quickly, but his expression gives away his concern over the crushing pace of the fight. Without giving the opponent room to breathe, the MC leaps at him wrapped in dense, dark smoke. Another exchange of rapid blows takes place, with crimson sparks cutting through the dark forest. Even with blood dripping down his face, the young warrior's gaze remains cold and completely focused. The opponent manages to land another deep cut on the side of the guy's body, but the wound doesn't seem to slow him down. The leader wonders if the guy has completely lost his mind, since he totally ignores the slashes and the bleeding. Looking closer, the swordsman realizes the guy's behavior isn't a case of blind rage. He notices his opponent dodges fatal strikes with extreme precision, perfectly controlling that scary bloodlust. A heavy shockwave triggers as both blades collide once again with full power in the clearing. The duel gets increasingly intense, with both fighters testing the limits of their strength and reflexes. The leader starts breaking into a cold, nervous sweat, wondering if his opponent really is just at the first-class level. He feels a chill run down his spine, as he realizes he feels like prey being hunted by a monster that doesn't even feel human. The white-haired swordsman grits his teeth, refusing to accept he's being pushed back like this. He gathers his strength to deliver another heavy blow, desperately trying to regain control of the fight. The leader shouts that he's already gotten used to the terrifying pressure of the killing intent projected by the guy. He channels all his power into a fierce charge, believing he's finally spotted an opening to win. At the moment of the final clash, dark smoke begins sprouting from the ground, wrapping around the fighter's feet. The enemy realizes with horror that thin tendrils of dark shadow are rising up and locking onto his body. His eyes widen, completely clueless about what's happening, and he tries to back up, only to realize it's way too late. Completely paralyzed by the restraints of dark energy, the warrior panics as he realizes he's lost all movement. The MC slowly approaches his defenseless opponent, keeping his dark aura active around the area. The enraged leader curses the teenager, realizing all that killing intent from earlier wasn't even his full power. The guy coldly responds that a hunter's fangs should remain hidden until it's time to slit the throat. He grips his sword hilt firmly, preparing to land the strike that will bring an end to this battle. The swordsman warns that if the teenager keeps using such dark energy, he'll never meet a peaceful end. Without a single second of hesitation, the MC drives his blade deep into the assassin leader's chest. The enemy coughs blood, feeling life drain away quickly as the blade passes right through his heart. The guy simply replies that he knows that all too well. After all, he already died once in the past. The scene then transitions to a gorgeous mountain landscape under a blue sky, bringing a brief moment of calm to the story. Suddenly, a man gets hit with a heavy punch straight to the face, sending him flying backward through the woods. Tang Sowol keeps sprinting through the forest, trying to keep her distance from the enemies chasing her. She realizes she used her very last hidden weapon and considers throwing rocks if more enemies show up. Suddenly, she missteps onto a dry branch that snaps with a loud crack under her weight. The young lady abruptly loses her balance and lets out a scared yell as she tumbles toward the ground. She hits the dirt hard, while the assassins leap down from the trees to capitalize on her fall. The enemies shout at each other, saying, "This is the perfect shot to take her life." Tang Sowol tries to recover quickly from the impact, pushing her hands against the ground to stand up. Looking up, she freezes in terror, realizing her attackers are already right on top of her. Several opponents jump simultaneously in her direction, raising their sharp blades to finish the job. With no way to dodge that lethal strike, the girl closes her eyes and braces for the worst. She mentally apologizes to the guy and decides to resort to her forbidden poison arts to save herself. Unexpectedly, a spinning sword flies through the air and buries itself violently into the head of one of the enemies. The man drops lifeless to the ground, leaving the other assassin completely baffled, and in a state of total shock. Tang Sowol looks around confused, trying to figure out where that precise, unexpected help came from. That's when the MC descends from above like a dark demon shrouded in a scary crimson haze. He lands with extreme agility and strikes the next opponent before the guy can even react. The last surviving henchman yells in frustration at the teenager's arrival, desperately trying to slash at him. With a single surgical lethal motion, the guy takes out the enemy and wraps up the fight instantly. The MC keeps his cold, relentless expression while the opponent's blood sprays around him. The area gets overwhelmed by a scary sense of pressure as dark energy traps the remaining invaders. The immobilized assassins collapse to the ground, completely incapacitated, groaning in pain from the aura's weight. The young guy takes a firm step forward, leaving a trail of black smoke wherever his feet touch the earth. He stands menacingly in front of the defeated foes, protecting the young lady who remains seated right behind him. With a deeply dark stare, the guy warns the survivors that whoever dares cross that line will perish. Completely terrified by the threat, the fallen warriors sweat in panic, barely able to catch a proper breath. The forest silence is broken only by the heavy sound of the MC's slow footsteps heading toward them. Right after, he coldly adds that even if they don't cross the line, they're going to perish either way. The scene changes once more to the scenic mountain landscape, signaling that the situation in the clearing is under control. Amidst the dense foliage, someone is moving at insane speeds, leaping from tree to tree. A man in green robes dashes frantically through the woods, visibly anxious about someone's whereabouts. With a tense, distressed look, he desperately hopes his dear daughter, Sowol, is safe and sound. He remembers his youngest daughter, raised like a precious jewel, and the sheer panic he felt upon learning of her kidnapping. Through intel from the Beggars faction, he finally discovered she was on a dangerous mountain. The man fears the real goal behind all this bandit activity is payback against the Tang clan mid-sprint. He suddenly halts and sniffs the air, catching a distinct aroma carried by the forest breeze. He's shocked to catch a strong scent of fresh blood, asking himself if the massacre on the mountain has already begun. He starts stumbling upon several lifeless bodies of assassins scattered along the path, confirming his worst fear. Further ahead, the sight gets even more gruesome, with pools of blood and defeated opponents on the forest floor. He finds it odd to see bodies injured by hidden weapons early on, but then finding deep, clean sword cuts later, intrigued and on high alert. He tries to deduce who the skilled warrior behind those slashes could be. The man speeds up his pace even more, sprinting toward the clearing from where the killing aura seems to emanate. Reaching the peak, he finally spots a young guy in black standing in the middle of dozens of defeated enemies on the grass. The Tang clan leader stops dead in his tracks, assessing the scene with a serious, cautious eye to avoid getting attacked. The young guy remains facing away, motionless and wrapped in dense black smoke, emanating immense bloodlust. The man senses that the young guy's killing intent is terrifying, resembling that of a battle-hardened veteran. Even aware of the arrival of a new powerful warrior, the MC doesn't budge and keeps his back turned to him. The man takes the initiative and asks the young teenager what exactly happened in this place to cause so much destruction. Before getting any answer, tendrils of black smoke rise from the ground and begin pinning the newcomer's legs. He finds himself caught in the exact same oppressive technique from earlier, surrounded by a zone filled with pure, dark energy. The MC finally begins turning his face toward the man, revealing a deadly, glowing red glare. The Tang clan leader observes the teenager's hostility and decides he needs to handle things carefully before speaking. He tells the guy that acting driven by bloodlust and showing fangs without evaluating the opponent isn't wise at all. The man executes a powerful movement that instantly dispels the MC's entire dark smoke technique. He demands the guy answer once and for all what really took place on this bloody battlefield. A familiar voice cries out for the young hero to stop right there, catching the attention of everyone present in the woods. The scary barrier of red and black smoke finally breaks down completely, exposing the clear sky once again. The Tang clan leader widens his eyes, surprised by the teenager's sudden shift in posture right before him, running out of strength to keep fighting. The MC lowers his weapon and leans on it to avoid falling from exhaustion. The guy completely loses his stamina and starts tilting backward due to the immense physical and spiritual drain. Tang Sowol sprints in his direction and manages to catch him at the last second before he hits the ground. She cradles the unconscious MC in her lap, desperate and calling out his name to see if he's okay. With tears in her eyes, the young lady notices the presence of the man who just arrived to save them in the forest. She looks up startled and whispers in surprise, asking if that person standing before her is really her father. The Tang clan leader looks down at her with a mix of relief and concern, calling out his beloved daughter's name. The father gets confused by the scene, while So-wol asks him to wait, begging the hero to wake up and respond. The MC slowly opens his eyes and asks her to stop yelling, assuring her he can see her just fine. He asks what happened, and the girl explains he defeated everyone, admitting she almost died of worry watching him fight. The father watches their interaction in silence, deeply shocked by what he just witnessed on the battlefield. He finds it unbelievable that an unconscious teenager controlled such immense bloodlust and reeled it back in the blink of an eye. A soft, relieved smile appears on Tang So-wol's lips upon realizing the danger has finally passed for both of them. She asks if the guy remembers his promise to reveal his real name once they made it safely off that mountain. The girl mentions it was super frustrating not knowing who he was, but insists there's no reason to hide his name anymore. The MC looks at her with a tired expression, but decides the time has finally come to be completely honest with her. He calmly reveals his true name is Cheon Hui, while resting peacefully in the girl's comforting arms. The scene shifts to the image of a beautiful field packed with flowers under glowing sunlight and a gentle breeze. Inside his mind, the MC sees himself resting peacefully, lying in the lap of a gorgeous white-haired woman. He recalls the time when surviving attacks from the terrifying heavenly demon was the sole purpose of their lives. The guy remembers everyone walking around blinded by the fog of war, wondering how long it had been since he looked up at a blue sky. He reflects on how long it was since he could simply feel the comforting warmth of the sun against his skin. The MC slowly wakes up and realizes he's lying in a comfortable bed, his body wrapped in bandages. Still a bit groggy and trying to gather his senses, the young guy asks himself where exactly he is right now. Suddenly, the sound of a sliding door opening catches his attention, making him turn his head toward the noise. Tang So-wol steps softly into the room, holding the wooden door frame with a calm, peaceful look on her face. She smiles warmly and asks sweetly if the young hero Cheon Hui finally managed to wake up. The guy slowly turns his head to watch her. Still adjusting to the cozy environment of the bedroom, he lets out a groan of pain as he tries to sit up, but the girl quickly rushes over in concern to stop him from reopening his wounds. She insists he stay lying down resting, but the guy replies that staying still just doesn't suit him. The teenager asks where the two of them are, and the girl playfully responds that there was nowhere else safe for them to go. With a radiant smile on her face, she welcomes him to the main estate of the Grand Sichuan Tang clan. The clan's massive estate spreads across a huge area surrounded by lovely trees and towering traditional buildings. The guy looks up at the detailed wooden ceiling of the room, surprised by the luxury and security of the place that took him in. He mutters in understanding and feels relieved to confirm that both of them managed to return completely safe. Tang So-wol looks down at him with a tender, happy gaze, grateful to see her journey partner finally recovering. She approaches carefully and pulls up a carved wooden chair to sit right beside the guy's bed. The guy sighs that his body is going to end up with even more scars, but she comforts him saying marks are a warrior's medals of honor. She lowers her head in sadness and apologizes, regretting he wouldn't have gotten hurt so badly if she were more skilled. The MC watches her in silence for a second, moved by the girl's genuine concern and sadness. The young lady keeps a sad expression, feeling guilty for all the trials the young man had to face because of her gently. The guy extends his bandaged hand to softly brush a strand of hair away from Tang So-wol's face. Her eyes widen slightly, and she blushes at the affectionate gesture, caught off guard by the unexpected kindness shown by the young warrior. The MC notices a small cut on Tang So-wol's face and mentions that, in the end, she ended up getting hurt too. Facing his affectionate touch and remark, the young lady turns completely red from embarrassment. Flustered, she stammers, explaining she just tripped on her own, guaranteeing the cut is minor and there's zero reason for him to feel guilty. The guy accepts the explanation, feeling relieved to confirm her injury really is nothing serious. Tang So-wol brings her hands up to her still blushing cheeks, feeling her heart beat faster from his closeness. She starts giggling softly in an amused way, leaving the MC confused, unable to get what's so funny. The young lady comments that she just realized something super funny. Their positions have completely flipped. Seeing the guy's confusion, she explains that now he's the one in her territory, under the care of her family. She proudly announces the Tang clan will treat him super well, with the best food so he can forget his cave life. The MC just listens in silence with a calm expression while resting in bed. He asks if she didn't get the concept of kidnapping completely wrong, but the girl gets annoyed and tells him to ignore the details. Suddenly, knocks at the door, interrupt their friendly chat, and a voice calls out for the young lady. The messenger warns that the family head has just arrived outside the room, putting both of them on alert toward the door. With a soft sliding sound over the wooden track, the room door is opened by the visitor. The girl's father and clan leader enters the bedroom, maintaining his usual imposing, serene posture. He explains he came to check the guy's condition, stating he's impressed by how fast his physical recovery is going. The MC looks at him seriously, paying attention to every detail and word spoken by the clan leader. The guy recognizes the man as Tang Jin Cheon, the feared Poison King, and one of the most renowned masters in the world. The teenager thanks him for the treatment, but the leader brushes it off, saying his energy pathways were already intact and barely anything needed to be done. He adds that his cuts were already healing on their own, expressing relief that everything turned out well. The chief advises the guy to thank So-wol, who looked after him non-stop, leaving the girl ridiculously embarrassed. The leader instructs the teenager to focus strictly on his recovery over the next few weeks before they talk formally. He also asks So-wol to get some rest, but she gets annoyed by the comment and shoves her dad right out of the room. The girl shuts the sliding door quickly with a sharp click to end the awkward topic once and for all. The MC mocks her, saying now he doesn't even know where to look, leaving the girl feeling even more awkward. He thinks about the fact that she changed all his bandages while he was knocked out, but she yells for him to lie down and shut up. Outside the room, the Tang clan leader sports a thoughtful and slightly pleased expression regarding the situation. He walks peacefully down the long, ornate hallways of his powerful family's massive residence. Time passes at the Sichuan Tang clan, and peace seems to finally reign over the mountains and traditional buildings. So-wol keeps carefully tending to the MC's arm bandages as he recovers day by day. Sometime later, the guy shows up completely healed and dressed in clean clothes, much to the girl's massive delight. They spend the afternoon chatting in a relaxed way in the room, forming a strong bond of trust and friendship. Tang So-wol laughs happily with blushing cheeks, showing just how happy and comfortable she feels by his side. The MC watches her with a serene look, flashing a subtle smile, enjoying that rare moment of peace. Through a window, the clan leader watches the two teenagers chatting peacefully in the property's inner courtyard. The patriarch stands under the sunlight, showing satisfaction at seeing their guests' progress and recovery. Shortly after, the guy steps into a hall and gets surprised to find a massive table set up for a huge feast. A lavish, rich spread of top-tier fancy dishes is laid out across the entire dining table. The leader asks him to sit down, and the guy thanks him, praising the clan's incredible medical skills that healed him so fast. The host comments that the head chef put in a lot of effort, suggesting everyone eat before the food gets cold. Tasting the meal, the MC reflects that he had never seen banquets this refined in his entire past life. So-wol gently offers to debone the guy's fish, explaining that particular fish requires some technique. Her dad starts giving detailed culinary instructions on how to cut the fish, leaving the young man pretty intrigued. The clan leader closes his eyes contentedly, enjoying the harmony of that family banquet at his home. He asks the guy to eat while listening, stating that the Tang clan owes him a massive debt of gratitude. The patriarch makes a point to formally thank the young warrior for risking everything to protect his daughter, So-wol. The MC closes his eyes for a brief moment and seriously answers that he didn't do it without a personal reason. The leader explains their rule of repaying debts tenfold and makes himself available to help him with whatever wish he has. A subtle smile pops up on the guy's face upon hearing the generous offer from the powerful leader. He reveals he picked up fighting strictly out of hunger, and today finds himself sitting before dishes he never dared dream of in the past. The MC explains he desires nothing beyond this quiet peace, prompting the clan leader to ask if he truly has zero desires. The young man grips his chopsticks, pondering that if there were one more thing he could long for in life, it would simply be to keep sharing his meals with someone special like this. Both right now and in the future, Tang So-wol listens to him in silence, deeply moved by the simplicity and sincerity behind the guy's words. The clan leader absorbs the answer silently, closing his eyes as he grasps the young hero's true nature. Next, he calls for his daughter's attention, and she promptly responds to her dad's call across the hall. The patriarch stuns everyone by formally declaring that he wants her to get engaged to young master Cheon Hui Tang. So-wol freezes dead in her tracks with her chopsticks in hand, completely unable to process her father's sudden decision. She turns beet red from embarrassment and stammers, not knowing what to say, facing the unexpected marriage proposal. The girl complains that this is way too sudden and snaps at the guy for calmly continuing to eat at a time like this. Her father asks for calm, explaining he just wants to make the engagement official to keep him close since the guy said he wanted to be family. He states the teenager is fully qualified for it, but So-wol tries to argue that the word family could mean something else. She suggests looking deeper into his motives, but the MC cuts her off saying he already made his real intentions crystal clear. The guy states no man would risk this much for someone he doesn't care about, asking if she happens to dislike him. Tang So-wol gets startled by the guy's direct question, turning even redder and more flustered by his comment. She stammers, trying to explain it's not like that, drawing attentive. Silent stares from both the guy and her father. The clan leader watches his daughter's cute, flustered state and closes his eyes with a subtle, discreet smile of satisfaction. He calms his daughter, saying that decision isn't just for the guy, but an arrangement made purely with her well-being in mind. The father explains that her rare poison constitution, while a blessing for the clan, also acts as a terrible curse on her body. He sorrowfully reveals that due to the constant buildup of toxins, she might end up losing the ability to have children in the future. Hearing the sad truth about her own physical condition, Tang So-wol drops her head with a gloomy, quiet look. The MC follows the conversation in silence, showing respect and seriousness listening to the young lady's family issue. Her dad promises he won't push her if she doesn't want it, but she asks him not to worry so much about her future. With a sweet smile, she guarantees she'll never feel regret or resentment for the body she received with so much love from her parents. The patriarch gets deeply moved by the maturity and affection shown by his dear daughter at that moment. While father and daughter share an emotional moment at the table, the MC watches them while holding his food. He clears his throat to grab their attention, apologizing for breaking the emotional mood that had settled in the hall. To everyone's shock at the table, the guy calmly states there actually is a simple fix to solve her problem. The clan leader and his daughter widen their eyes in absolute shock, unable to believe what they just heard from him. The father demands to know if he's serious, and the guy explains, "You just need to restrict the poison energy flow using a formula." He knows inside his mind, the guy recalls that in his past life, So-wol had to carry the burden of reviving the clan's bloodline after the family's destruction. He remembers that was precisely why she conducted relentless research on poisons and ended up sharing the results with him. The MC fondly recalls future So-wol's smile and the valuable control method she had taught him back then. With complete confidence, the teenager recites the secret poison control formula directly to the two Tang clan members. The clan leader is left completely speechless, staring at the guy with a look of indescribable shock and disbelief. He starts breaking into a cold sweat upon realizing the unbelievable depth and precision of that technique revealed by a young outsider. Absolute silence takes over the fancy dining hall while the patriarch processes the grand scale of that information. The host takes a deep breath and assumes an extremely serious posture before speaking back to young Master Cheon-hui. He reminds the guy that he is the Tang clan leader, and the MC calmly responds that he already knows that very well. The leader claims he can pull off almost anything in the world, especially when it comes to poison techniques and hidden weapons. However, he sorrowfully admits he was unable to do almost anything to save his own daughter from that terrible condition. The patriarch declares he's now accumulated another massive debt to the teenager, admitting he doesn't even know how he can repay such help. The guy downplays the achievement, saying he just passed along something he heard from someone else and that he shouldn't consider it a favor. He flashes a side smile at So-wol and says she can breathe easy now, thinking to himself that this isn't a favor or a debt. Tang So-wol smiles happily back with a blushing face, mentally thanking everything she received from that mysterious young man. The bright blue sky over the massive property signals a bright new future beginning for everyone right there. The leader stands up, announcing the end of the meal, but mentions he still needs to handle another important matter today. He asks his daughter to step out first, as he needs to have a private, serious chat with young Master Cheon-hui. So-wol accepts the order and says goodbye to the guy with a cheerful wave, while he calmly responds he'll see her later. The MC smiles sweetly, watching the girl walk away. While the clan leader watches him from behind with an enigmatic look, the MC asks what the clan leader wants to say, and the man admits it's impolite to dig into someone's past, but wants to clear up a personal doubt. The patriarch stuns the guy with a direct question, asking if he has any connection to the feared heavenly killer star. Silence settles over the room as the leader repeats the question, locked in on decoding the guy's reaction and mysteries. The MC looks at him seriously, keeping his calm posture even facing such a delicate revelation about his true identity. The guy reflects deeply on the weight and meaning of that legendary title tied to the heavenly killer star. He fully understands the genuine concern eating at Master Tang Jinqian's mind right now. That condition grants a warrior incredible talent rivaling the heavenly martial constitution, but prevents them from controlling their killing intent. The guy knows that even aware of this terrible curse, the warrior stays trapped in a tragic fate of blood commanded by the heavens. He calmly takes a sip of tea while pondering the burden placed on those born under the influence of the heavenly killer star. The host denies suspecting him, and the guy says it's fine, as he understands the anxiety surrounding that destructive power. The teenager asks directly if the leader wants to know if he learned the forbidden martial arts linked to that star. The patriarch confirms his suspicion and lowers his gaze seriously, anxiously waiting for the young hero's final answer. He explains the guy's killing aura is so dense it surpasses even monsters from dark factions, something never seen before flowing in internal energy. The leader confesses he was surprised to see him pull back his killing intent upon hearing Sowol, but warns that any slip in control could be fatal. The clan head sighs and tells the guy it was precisely because of that imminent danger that he decided to make a special offer. He offers to hand over the Tang clan's secret inner techniques and spiritual elixirs if the teenager agrees to abandon that dangerous martial art. The MC listens to the generous offer carefully, maintaining his usual thoughtful, calm expression. The guy thanks the leader's noble intention, but politely declines the invitation, causing the patriarch to ask the reason behind that call. The teenager explains with a smile that he'd rather climb the steep mountain he built with his own hands than take the shortcut offered by someone else. He adds that he'll be fine even if he trips along the way, as long as he has someone by his side, leaving the leader surprised by his maturity. The patriarch accepts the answer with a satisfied smile, stating he now fully understands the guy's convictions. He praises the technique taught and tries to find out who taught it, but the guy dodges the question, saying he just had a miraculous encounter. The host realizes there are secrets the teenager can't reveal, and the guy promises that one day he'll tell him the whole truth. The leader understands and dismisses him to get rest, while the MC stands up politely, thanking him and taking his leave. Leaving the hall, the MC surprises the clan leader by saying goodbye, while respectfully addressing him as father-in-law. The guy calmly steps out with a light smile, leaving behind a light, relaxed mood in the room. The patriarch freezes in panic from the sudden title and breaks into a cold, nervous sweat over the young son-in-law's boldness. He yells in annoyance, saying he's not ready to be called that yet, but the guy pretends he can't hear well and repeats the title from afar. The next day, peace returns to the massive traditional Sichuan Tang clan estate under the sunny sky. Tang Sowol shows up all dressed up at the guy's door and calls out excitedly, warning that the sun is already high and it's time to wake up. The MC slides open the door still sleepy, blinking slowly, completely messy. The young lady complains she put in a lot of effort to dress up for him, while her fiancé greets her with a sleepy face and eye crust. The guy blinks confused, trying to process the young lady's energetic morning complaints. He mocks her, saying she accepted the engagement way too fast, making the girl annoyed and reminding him he was the one who confessed first. The guy fires back, saying he did that because he actually likes her, and asks why she's dressed so fancy. Tang Sowol pouts in annoyance at his teasing, crossing her arms with cute charm. She shoves him back into the room, ordering him to wash his face and change clothes fast, while the guy asks her to stop pushing him. Shortly after, they step out together to explore the bustling, prosperous Sichuan province stretching beyond the clan. The local market streets are packed with life, with locals strolling around under beautiful, colorful, traditional umbrellas. Tang Sowol points excitedly down the street, happily announcing the start of their tour around Sichuan province. The guy finds her excitement over a simple walk amusing, but admits deep down he was also looking forward to this moment. The young lady explains that since he'll be the Tang clan's son-in-law, it's key for him to get to know the area that will now be his new home. The MC watches her tenderly, letting himself catch the contagious joy of his beautiful partner. He reflects that before his regression, the province had been wiped out by the heavenly demon, making this the first time he sees it intact. The young lady cheerfully greets a local vendor, and the man gets surprised and happy to see young lady Sowol back. The merchant mentions he heard she had left on a journey, and gets surprised by her quick return, leaving the girl a bit flustered. Asked about who the companion by her side is, Sowol proudly introduces the MC as her fiancé. The vendor goes into absolute shock at the bombshell revelation, almost dropping his goods on the ground. The man yells out in surprise, and the girl asks if a huge scene was really necessary, telling the guy not to just stand there and greet the gentleman. With a calm, polite look, the MC offers a respectful bow and formally introduces himself as Cheon Hui. The vendor complains that just talking politely with his head up doesn't count as a bow, but Sowol defends him while the guy mentions he's not used to lowering his head. So-wol asks if he'll be okay, since engagement rumors will spread across the province, and Cheon-hui replies he spoke on purpose for that to happen. Cheon-hui looks a bit flustered, and So-wol laughs, saying she's going to guess why he's acting this way. She asks if he has an inferiority complex from not being married yet, or fear of rumors, and the guy jokes, saying she should set up a fortune-telling booth. So-wol says he has a weirdly low self-esteem and shouldn't care what others think, but rather remember everything he's already accomplished. She recalls that even though she was a complete stranger, he risked his life for her and later turned down gold and riches at the rewards trial just to ask for her hand. Right then, So-wol confesses with a smile that she felt like the main character of a beautiful romance story. She tells him not to feel anxious, because as a Tang clan daughter who had her life saved, it's impossible for her feelings not to match his Tang So-wol poses with grace and elegance, proudly showing off the lovely earring she's wearing under a shower of flower petals. She looks right into Cheon-hui's eyes and asks with a radiant smile if the accessory really suited her. The guy watches her enchanted and flashes a tender smile, completely disarmed by his fiancée's beauty and sweetness. Cheon-hui says her beauty won't let him focus on the province's scenery, making the girl praise his romantic side and order one of the vendor's items. The merchant gets all embarrassed with blushing cheeks, witnessing the young couple's romantic scene. The two continue their walk, holding hands through the crowded, bustling streets of the beautiful city. Next, they decide to stop at a local food stall to grab lunch and sample a well-seasoned local dish from the region. After the meal, they get back to walking happily, with So-wol skipping along excitedly while Cheon-hui keeps close beside her. The day slowly fades, and the sky starts picking up soft colors over the majestic roofs of the clan properties. So-wol gets happy that he liked Sichuan cuisine, and Cheon-hui explains that growing up hungry, he doesn't usually turn down any kind of food. The young lady feels sad, remembering he took fasting pills instead of real food, prompting her fiancé to apologize for making her worry. The two step back into the massive Tang family residence, walking side by side down the wooden hallways. Reaching the main courtyard, they spot a group of men dressed in traditional Green Clan uniforms. Chatting away, Cheon-hui asks what's going on for the place to be so lively, and So-wol realizes today is a super important day. A group of clan warriors and elders is gathered right in front of the main temple entrance, discussing seriously. Sensing someone approaching, one of the young warriors whose back was turned quickly turns around to look in their direction. He flashes a bright smile and says he heard about So-wol's return, commenting she ended up coming back from her trip before him. Cheon-hui watches the young man with a totally neutral expression, asking himself mentally who this super intimate guy is. The scene shifts to the massive Tang clan estate, showing the grand scale of its structures surrounded by trees. Inside a meeting room, Chief Escort Tang Yujin gets surprised and asks if he heard right about So-wol having a fiancé. Patriarch Tang Jinqian calmly confirms with closed eyes, keeping his usual imposing, serene posture. Yujin comments he didn't expect the leader to give up on the engagement so easily, but Jinqian fires back, saying he looked deep into it before deciding. He reveals the teenager grew up an orphan, wiped out an entire cult at age 15, and uses a dangerous cultivation technique based on killing intent. Jinqian adds that the guy's track record paints him as ruthless, but believes he must be pretty different in person. But the patriarch surprises him by saying he was exactly the same when he met him in person, leaving the chief escort confused by the response. The patriarch explains the blade the guy carries in his heart isn't pointed at them, revealing he kidnapped So-wol purely to protect her. Jin Cheon says he also taught how to control So-wol's poison, and Yujin agrees the whole clan is in debt, asking if just the engagement is enough. The leader agrees and shares he told the young man to ask for whatever reward he wanted, asking if his companion knows what his answer was. The guy replied he didn't want riches, just to be part of the family, and that was why the patriarch approved his marriage to So-wol. Hearing the whole story of sacrifice and love, the chief escort gets impressed and expresses his awe with a sigh. Eugene finds the situation super romantic and asks if So-wol feels the same way. Receiving a positive confirmation from Jincheon, Eugene says even he would fall for a man like that, but the patriarch sarcastically reminds him that comment comes from someone who already has 4 concubines. Eugene advises the leader to find someone now that his daughter is grown up, since he's been single for 10 years, but Jincheon says he has 0 interest. The chief escort laughs at his devotion, but the patriarch accepts the compliment and quickly pivots topics, saying there's a more pressing issue. The vibe in the room instantly shifts, and Tang Yujin turns serious, asking what that pressing, concerning issue could be. Suddenly, knocks at the door interrupt the chat, and a servant announces the Black Soul Squad leader wishes to speak with the patriarch. The two men exchange extremely serious, focused looks, understanding the weight and importance of the unexpected visit right now. Meanwhile, outside, the imposing Tang clan headquarters rests in silence under the soft dusk light. Later, in the courtyard, the patriarch apologizes to his daughter for being far away in another province while she was in danger, relieved to see her well. He squeezes her cheeks worriedly, saying she lost weight and suffered a lot, while the girl grumbles that she actually didn't lose any weight at all. The furious father rants he would have wiped out the culprits if he were there, but Sowell tries to calm him, saying all the attackers are already dead. The girl proudly reveals her fiancé defeated and eliminated every single one of them alone, leaving the patriarch completely stunned by the reveal. Cheon-hui formally introduces himself to the clan warriors and says he's very grateful for the hospitality he received from them. The patriarch apologizes for the delay and explains it was thanks to Cheon-hui that Sowell made it back safe, leaving young Tang Cheong shocked. He offers a respectful bow and introduces himself as Tang Cheong, the young patriarch, thanking him from the bottom of his heart for rescuing his sister. Cheon-hui watches him in silence for a brief moment with a thoughtful, focused look. The MC recognizes the man as Sowell's older brother, remembering that in the other timeline, he gave his life to help her escape. He reflects that now, he gets Sowell's obsession with avenging her family before the regression. As he sees how much they love and protect each other, Tang Cheong praises the teenager's incredible skills for beating so many enemies at such a young age, suggesting he get plenty of rest before heading out. Sowell awkwardly tries to step in and correct her brother, leaving Tang Cheong super confused, asking if he made a mistake in his speech. The patriarch cuts off the teenager's chat and authoritatively says they were still mid-discussion on an important topic. He clarifies to his son that the MC isn't just a guest, but actually Sowell's fiancé and the newest official family member. Hearing the bombshell revelation about his younger sister's sudden engagement, Tang Cheong stands completely paralyzed with zero reaction. Stammering from shock, he asks if that's actually true, trying to process the unbelievable info he just received from his dad. Cheon-hui flashes a humorous smile and sarcastically says he's looking forward to the future they'll share together as brothers. Tang Cheong nearly suffers a nervous breakdown facing the provocation and the young guy's extremely confident attitude. The young man looks desperately at his dad, searching for answers, but the patriarch just calmly confirms he gave his blessing for the union. He yells out outraged, saying he doesn't accept the marriage, arguing it's insane to set up an agreement like that with someone they just met. Cheon-hui makes matters worse by mentioning they lived in a cave for a month after the kidnapping, making his brother-in-law even more desperate. Sowell turns beet red from embarrassment and snaps at her fiancé for oversharing unnecessary details, while her brother almost passes out from distress. Tang Cheong cries, recalling the time his little sister waited for him to get sweets, but Sowell complains, asking how long ago that was. She yells in annoyance, letting him know she stopped doing that when she turned 12, while the patriarch clears his throat to grab everyone's attention. The leader orders everyone to stop the silly argument and warns that now that they're gathered, it's time to get straight to the main point. He suggests they move inside the temple, as the outer courtyard is way too exposed to discuss confidential matters. The group gathers in a private, quiet room inside the property to debate the clan's sensitive issues. The patriarch gets straight to the point and reveals they discovered the terrifying demonic cult is the mastermind behind the attack on Sowell. The bombshell revelation leaves both Cheon-hui and his fiancé in absolute shock, completely shifting the room's vibe. Cheon-hui gets confused because before his time regression, the case had wrapped up simply, without involving the demonic cult. The leader explains the enemies are in Guangdong, info confirmed by the Hao clan to avoid retaliation and huge future losses. Tang Cheong furiously demands they head out immediately to Guangdong to eliminate the threat, and his dad agrees that's his intention. The patriarch takes a dramatic pause with a super serious expression before laying down an important condition. He states he wants Sowell and Cheon-hui to stay safe at the clan, sparking outrage from the young lady who wants to deliver justice with her own hands. Her dad agrees with the clan's revenge rules, but explains it hasn't been long since the incident and doesn't want the two pushing themselves too hard. He reinforces that he only called the couple there to inform them that there was a real culprit working from the shadows behind this whole situation. The fiancé agrees with his beloved and addresses the leader as father-in-law, stating they should settle the debt of gratitude and revenge themselves. The patriarch fires back that their role in punishing the direct attackers is already done, and now the clan will take on the retaliation mission. Sowell complains, grumbling that her fiancé almost died to save her, which is why she thinks it's unfair she can't join the mission. The patriarch calls his daughter by her name with a deep, emotional stare, cutting off the girl's complaints right away. He begs with sincerity for her to accept his request, confessing he doesn't have the stomach to send her into danger again so soon. Facing her dad's genuine declaration of love and concern, So-wol is left speechless with an aching heart. She walks alongside her fiancé in the garden and complains that her dad pulled the sentimental card, making it impossible to turn down his request. Cheon-hui reflects thoughtfully that the demonic cult might be the key to finding valuable clues about the feared heavenly demon. The young lady turns to him and asks if the guy is really just going to accept the situation and give up on going after the enemies like this. The fiancé gets surprised by her boldness, but So-wol admits she feels scared, though running away now would mean the end of her life as a warrior. She says she wants to honor the Tang clan as a warrior, but since she gets her dad's protective feelings, she can't keep being stubborn. The MC listens to her with absolute focus, deeply admiring the maturity and willpower of his beautiful partner. With a subtle smirk, Cheon-hui says it's way easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission to do what they're planning. The teenager takes a firm stride forward and suggests a bold, humorous alternative to solve their dilemma. He grips his sword scabbard and announces with a confident smile that from now on, he's kidnapping So-wol off to Guangdong Tang. So-wol widens her eyes, completely caught off guard by the wild, bold proposal she just heard from her fiancé. Night settles over the quiet, shadow-draped streets of Sichuan province, lit only by the soft glow of the full moon. Two fast silhouettes leap silently across rooftop tiles, kicking off their secret escape under the dark cover of night. Suddenly, a massive, heavy axe slams into the dirt with force, showing someone dangerous is nearby. A man covered in bandages complains angrily that they should have taken turns sleeping, as they ended up oversleeping and losing track of time. He says he can't stand waiting around itching and impatiently asks when those miserable Tang clan fools are finally going to show up. A hand wearing a metal gauntlet clenches hard, and his companion tells him to have patience and focus on how they're going to crush their enemies. A woman in blue robes with a deadly look emerges saying they need to devour as many prey as fall into their death trap. Under the glow of the full moon and heavy clouds, the massive, peaceful Tang clan estate rests in absolute silence. So-wol thoughtfully comments that her dad must already be passing through the Chongqing area on his way to his dangerous mission right about now. Gripping his sword hilt, Cheon-hui agrees and says since he left in the morning, he's definitely pretty close by. The guy flashes a determined gaze and asks with a subtle smile if they should also start making their move for their journey. The full moon shines brightly in the night sky, illuminating the path of the youngsters starting their secret journey through the shadows. Near the Tang clan stables, a sleepy guard stands watch over the horses at night. He lets out a long, deep yawn, fighting bravely against the extreme exhaustion he feels during the late hours. Suddenly, he's blindsided by dark tendrils wrapping around his face, silencing him before he can react. The guard instantly passes out onto the ground, and Cheon-hui calmly emerges from the shadows beside his fiancée, So-wol. So-wol asks worriedly if this is right, but he says there's no turning back, and since he's kidnapping her, the blame falls entirely on him. She gets surprised by the guy's direct words and protective vibe, staring at him wide-eyed and slightly blushing. The young lady says she doesn't want to watch him carry the whole weight alone, and promises she'll push herself to the limit to help him on the journey. Cheon-hui flashes a tender side smile, feeling comforted by his fiancé's resolve and affection. So-wol climbs onto one of the horses and asks which animal the guy is going to ride, since he ordered them to take off immediately. Cheon-hui calmly admits he doesn't know how to ride a horse, leaving So-wol shocked, unable to get why they stole from the stables in the first place. The guy explains they needed a horse to go faster and suggests riding behind her, making her ask who's actually kidnapping who here. He thinks to himself that before his regression, horses were way too expensive, and by the time he could afford one, he could run faster than any animal anyway. Left with no choice, So-wol tells him to get up already, and the guy politely excuses himself before nimbly hopping onto the back of the horse. The sudden closeness makes So-wol's heart race with nervousness, leaving the girl extremely red and flustered. She eyes him suspiciously, asking if that hug from behind was his plan from the start, but the guy just smiles, asking if there's any problem. So-wol jokes, calling him pretty slick, and the guy playfully fires back asking if she'd prefer he get off the horse. The scene shifts, focusing on the bustling, distant Guangdong province, resting quietly under the full moon glow. The camera zooms in on the massive, fortified headquarters of one of the area's major local sects, surrounded by high walls of dark stone. In the estate's surroundings, the firm sound of footsteps marching in sync starts echoing across the dirt ground of the woods. A group of black-clad warriors armed with sharp swords marches imposingly toward the property's gates. Tang Jincheon asks if the intel is solid, and the informant guarantees he'd never lie to the Poison King regarding the demonic cult. The Black Soul Unit commander warns they've already surrounded the area and requests orders to breach and attack the location right away. The Patriarch thanks the Hao clan informant and dismisses him, promising he'll properly reward him for his help in the future. With an extremely serious, cold glare, the Tang clan leader observes the imposing enemy base right in front of him. The Patriarch asks the commander what kind of man he proved to be throughout the long journey from Sichuan to Guangdong. He vents saying, being a leader is tough, as he has to watch over allies, but admits it would be simpler to walk in alone and destroy everything. The Patriarch ponders that, even though they tried to hurt his daughter, it wouldn't look good for a clan leader to act strictly out of personal feelings. However, standing in front of the enemy gate, he admits none of that matters anymore, and that his fatherly rage speaks way louder. The commander listens in silence with a look of deep understanding, getting the leader's pain and resolve completely. He offers a respectful bow and asks the leader not to worry, as they'll maintain the perimeter to prevent any rumors from spreading Tang Jincheon. Thanks the commander with a slight nod of his eyes, displaying all his gratitude for the warrior's loyalty. The focus turns to the massive, quiet wooden doors of the enemy base, closed under the moonlight. Suddenly, a booming, violent explosion shatters the large doors into 1,000 pieces, scattering smoke everywhere. A crowd of armed enemy warriors sprints out, panicked to see what caused that sudden destruction at their entrance. Looking through the dense smoke, every single one of them goes into absolute shock, spotting the man standing right in front of them. From the middle of the dust and rubble, a single imposing figure strides calmly and firmly toward the group. Carrying an expression of unmatched murderous rage, the Poison King emerges before the enemies, his eyes glowing with hatred. The enemy leaders turn completely terrified and pale with dread upon recognizing the legendary Patriarch standing before them. The bandaged man panics, asking why the Patriarch showed up completely solo with 0 followers for this battle. He walks forward determined and says, "There's no time for appearances," warning that soon everyone there will be nothing but poisoned corpses. The bandaged man groans in agony and starts scratching his neck desperately due to an unbearable itch he feels. He complains furiously to his partner that the intel failed and that their only choices now are dying while running or taking on the Poison King. She mocks him, saying she never imagined Jin Cheon loved his daughter so much to seek personal payback, doubting the girl's future as a warrior. In a cold voice, Tang Jincheon fires back, stating that people who can't even take care of their own lives have 0 right to judge others' futures. The woman agrees and reveals she's fighting strictly to survive, confessing their original mission was to die alongside So-wol. She adds she'd rather not melt away from poison without managing to achieve or accomplish a single thing first. A horde of enemy warriors charges, screaming furiously with weapons drawn against the powerful intruder. As the opponents leap toward him, Tang Jincheon plants his foot firmly and releases a dense mist of green poison around himself. The deadly poison spreads instantly, like a greenish explosion, swallowing every warrior reckless enough to draw close. The warriors try to defend against the toxic strike, but the poison gas is way too fast, wrapping their bodies without giving them a chance to flee. In a matter of seconds, the poison terribly corrodes the enemy's flesh, turning them into skeletons right in front of everyone. The disintegrated bodies drop lifeless around the Patriarch, demonstrating the devastating, merciless power of the Tang clan techniques. Amidst the chaos, a small, dangerous red bomb with a lit fuse drops from the robes of one of the dead warriors. The Patriarch senses the danger and widens his eyes, noticing the enemies carried powerful thunder bombs hidden in their clothes. A giant fire explosion triggers right after, swallowing the spot in flames and heavy dark smoke. The thick black smoke spreads rapidly across the battle zone due to the devastating impact of the thunder bombs. To escape the deadly blast, Tang Jincheon leaps sky high, hovering over the destroyed property courtyard. Looking down with contempt and rage, he mutters angrily that those wretched enemies are super tricky. Taking advantage of the smokescreen created by the explosion, the 2 enemy leaders start sprinting desperately to escape the scene. They use their weapons and brute strength to smash through a wooden wall and carve a path, trying to escape the Patriarch's rage at all costs. The Black Soul Unit guards spot the escape attempt and yell out, ordering the 2 leaders killed immediately. The Tang clan warriors try to contain the escape, but get violently struck by the fugitives attacking out of pure desperation. The bandaged man complains about the situation, but the woman tells him to shut his mouth and focus strictly on surviving now so he can complain later. She locks her entire focus on the run for survival, her gaze sharp and tense as she gets closer to the exit. Suddenly, one of the fugitives' feet stomps hard into a pool of red blood staining the property stone floor. The couple stops dead in their tracks upon sensing an overwhelming, terrifying presence emerge right in front of them, paralyzing them in dread. Their eyes widen in absolute shock as they realize they won't be escaping that terrible fate so easily. From high up in the dark sky, a mysterious silhouette leaps down with a drawn blade to land a fatal blow on them. The swords collide violently mid-air with a deafening metallic clash, forcing the fugitives to block the surprise attack. Cheon-hui emerges imposingly wrapped in his dark aura alongside So-wol, mocking that he arrived right on time. The two fugitives run face-to-face into Cheon-hui and Tang So-wol, who show up under the full moon to block their path. The invaders stare them down seriously, unable to hide their surprise at having their escape route completely blocked. The bandaged man notices Tang So-wol's robes and green eyes, realizing she's from the Sichuan Tang clan and looks barely 20 years old. The bandaged man starts laughing like crazy, finding it stroke of insane luck that the prey itself dropped into their lap right at the time of escape. He pats his partner's back and celebrates, saying he always gets lucky when he follows her lead, while she just stays quiet. The woman in blue analyzes their opponents and asks if that duo right there really is Tang So-wol and the annoying swordsman who ruined their plans. The woman in blue gets surprised by them coming there to settle scores personally, even against the Poison King's wishes. Right after, she begins adjusting the red cord on her metal gauntlets, thinking maybe she doesn't even need to take back what she said. She warns that whole thing about becoming a true martial artist would only count if the swordsman managed to survive the current fight. Cheon-hui recognizes the bandaged man as Dan Muksang, remembering that before the regression, he was a powerful master of the demonic cult. The opponent covered in wraps takes a menacing stance with his giant axe ready for battle. He asks himself who the female fighter beside him is, noting both are high-level martial artists and that his duo is at a disadvantage. Even at a disadvantage, Cheon-hui grips his sword with resolve, knowing that overcoming an obstacle of this level won't be a problem. Suddenly, Cheon-hui releases a terrifying, dense red aura of killing intent that take over the entire combat scene. The overwhelming power is so violent it forces the two opponents to leap backward immediately to avoid getting consumed by it. The woman in blue gets shocked by the sheer force of that murderous presence, understanding why her subordinates got slaughtered. The bandaged man lands on the ground, caught in the red energy, feeling the crazy pressure of the opponent under his feet. He starts laughing insanely, finding that absurd pressure extremely fun and impressive. He states the young guy emanates a demonic energy darker than theirs and proposes they join forces instead of fighting each other. Cheon-hui turns down the offer, saying he's the Tang clan's son-in-law, an orthodox martial artist, and that he already has a fiancé and zero interest in men. The opponent finds it funny and grips his axe handle tightly upon hearing talk of an orthodox faction coming from someone so terrifying. He dashes forward, yelling that if the teenager is from the orthodox faction, then he himself must be the grand leader of the Murim alliance. Seeing the attack begin, Tang So-wol crosses her arms to focus and activate her powerful poison technique. A massive, dense cloud of green, toxic smoke detonates and spreads rapidly across the entire courtyard where they stand. The dangerous bandaged man widens his eyes, noticing the fast, relentless arrival of that deadly toxic mist. The warrior uses the wind generated by his axes to disperse the poison haze, while sprinting toward the enemies. Cheon-hui springs into action fast, swinging his sword cleanly against the closing-in opponent. At the same time, the woman in blue slams the ground with her metal fist, shattering the entire stone floor from the impact. The ground breaks violently, creating a wall of stones and smoke that temporarily separates the combatants. Right after, the bandaged man leaps off the rubble and comes down, landing a heavy axe strike against Cheon-hui. While the men exchange high-speed attacks, Tang So-wol masterfully dodges, leaping back to reposition herself. The woman in blue notices something extremely fast flying toward her face and goes on high alert. Using her metal gauntlet nimbly, she manages to block and deflect the toxic projectiles fired at her. Tang So-wol stays grounded, commanding her attacks from afar to keep the opponents under constant pressure. The female fighter in blue gets super irritated, realizing that duo is way more problematic and tough to handle than she imagined. The Tang clan guards finally approach the battle site and point at the fugitives, recognizing who's fighting. The clan warriors shout in shock, seeing Tang So-wol and the young hero Cheon-hui facing the enemies right there. The guards offer to help in the fight, but Tang So-wol immediately orders them not to take another step forward. She explains her poison isn't precise enough to spare them mid-fight and asks them not to interfere for their own safety. The clan warriors hesitate and get pretty tense hearing the direct order and dangerous warning from their lady. With the guards backed off, the tense clash between the two duos resumes intensely with dust and poison in the air. At that moment, Cheon-hui spits out a small greenish bead he was holding inside his mouth during the fight. He wipes the corner of his lips, keeping his sharp gaze locked on the enemies while wielding his black blade. Sowol turns embarrassed by his remark about internal poison and warns that not even a high-grade protective bead can withstand her power. On the other side, the enemies start coughing due to the toxins, annoyed by the toxic projectiles constantly fired by Sowol. The woman in blue realizes Cheon-hui is a massive roadblock, as he constantly blocks them whenever they try to strike her directly. She suggests focusing attacks on the swordsman first before the Poison King catches up to them, but her partner grumbles that it's not that simple. He analyzes that the young swordsman has top-tier skills and leaves almost zero openings in his defense, making him an irritating opponent. Despite the annoyance, he grins, thinking that guy's killing aura is nothing special for someone at his level. Cheon-hui stares down the enemy seriously, remembering exactly why that opponent became known by such a feared name. Cheon-hui realizes his fear paralysis technique doesn't work on lunatics like him, who attack like rabid dogs without hesitating. Without wasting time, the two villains charge at high speed, coordinating their strikes against the young fighters. A new burst of green toxic smoke is released by Tang Sowol to try and hold off their relentless advance. The woman in blue clenches her fist with extreme force, prepping to land a devastating punch that cuts through the air using pure wind pressure and physical force. They manage to tear a hole right through the toxic mist and pass without hesitating. Tang Sowol gets super surprised seeing the opponents used wind pressure to rip through her toxic fog. The brutal clash between the combatants sends massive rocks flying through the air and cracks the ground where they're dueling. Worried about the intensity of the fight, Tang Sowol screams her fiancé's name in the middle of all that destruction. Cheon-hui emerges imposingly mid-dust, his red eyes glowing intensely from drawing on his power. A violent collision triggers right after, lighting up the entire courtyard with an explosion of red and dark energy. Sensing the massive pressure from Cheon-hui's strike, the woman in blue gets shoved back and lets out a groan of pure pain. However, Dan Muksung quickly emerges from behind and comes down with his giant axe, stating that won't work on him. Keeping absolute cool, Cheon-hui holds his black sword hilt firm and readies to counter the blow. The sword and axe clash violently with a loud boom, generating sparks that light up the surrounding smoke. The young swordsman nimbly dodges the villain's consecutive strikes, answering with fast, precise slashes through the air. The bandaged man widens his eyes confused, unable to get how the teenager manages to predict all his movements. After the frantic exchange of blows, the two opponents touch down and return to locking eyes in the destroyed courtyard. He keeps attacking furiously, super frustrated realizing he can't land a hit on the guy no matter what. The opponent notices Cheon-hui stays glued to him at point-blank range, dangerously close to his attack line. He realizes the young guy strikes his axe handle to conserve energy, displaying out-of-this-world combat perception. With intense rage, the villain lets out a wild roar and tries to land a devastating side slash to decapitate the swordsman. Cheon-hui attempts to block the attack, but the axe ends up grazing the left side of his chest, spilling blood. The wound on Cheon-hui's chest begins bleeding, tearing his black robes open mid-battle. Seeing the attack landed, the bandaged man grins behind his wraps, though noticing the cut was pretty shallow. Even wounded, the young swordsman raises his blade with total ice-cold composure, leaving the opponent surprised by his lack of reaction. He smiles and says that even without his killing aura, the enemy is no match in pure skill, as he already lost the exact same way in the past. With a swift, imperceptible move, Cheon-hui lands a deep slash slicing straight through the bandaged opponent's body. The villain drops to the ground, spurting blood, leaving his blue-robed partner completely frozen in absolute shock. She turns red with rage and grits her teeth, cursing the swordsman for messing up all their plans. In the next instant, she also gets brutally hit by a relentless strike that leaves her bleeding amidst the toxic mist. Her body starts reacting violently to Tang Sowol's powerful poison, causing her veins to pop from sheer agony and extreme pain. Finally, the two invaders fall completely defeated onto the dirt. While the young couple watches the end of the clash, Tang Sowol steps down off the rock and mocks the cool speech the swordsman gave to the enemies before the end. Silence slowly returns to the massive Tang clan property under the dark clouds blanketed over the night sky. On the stone floor, the two enemy leaders lie fallen and motionless in pools of blood, marking the final end of the threat. Relieved with the fight over, she quickly runs over to her fiancé and asks if he's really okay after the intense combat. She worries inspecting the cut on his chest, but Cheon-hui minimizes the situation, saying he took the blow knowing it wouldn't be fatal. She complains he constantly risks his own life without caring about the consequences, but the teenager tries to calm her, saying nothing will happen. While he tries to give a technical breakdown of his abilities, she gets cutely annoyed and squeezes his cheeks for being so stubborn. She says he's hopeless and tells him to let her take a close look at the injury, ignoring the guy's complaints. Surprising the guy, Tang So-wol leans in and gently licks the bloody wound on Cheon-hui's chest. Cheon-hui goes into total shock from her action, widening his eyes, clueless how to react at that moment. He turns bright red from embarrassment and yells out, asking what on earth she thinks she's doing right there. She stays super close to him, focused on treating the chest wound in a pretty unique, intimate way. She explains with a mischievous smile that it'd be ugly for him to end up with a scar, and that she applied a special healing poison that seals cuts. She warns she won't do this every time, while he hides his embarrassed face, asking how she pulls off something so awkward without hesitating. She blushes and stammers, saying it's just medical treatment, right as heavy footsteps start echoing at the battle site. Suddenly, an extremely scary presence emerges behind them, revealing the silhouette of the Poison King shrouded in green smoke. The patriarch demands serious explanations on what's going on there, including that embarrassing display he just witnessed between the two. Catching the patriarch's rage, both Cheon-hui and Tang So-wol turn completely pale, sweating from pure nervousness. Cheon-hui tries to calm the patriarch, saying he'll explain everything, but his father-in-law fires back instantly, asking not to be called that. Tang Jin-cheon keeps his arms crossed with a super serious, imposing expression, while staring down the teenage duo left with no choice. The two drop to their knees on the ground with heads bowed, taking a totally submissive posture before the leader. He looks at them and warns that serious incident of disobedience isn't something that can be swept under the rug or forgiven easily. Cheon-hui takes all the blame for the plan, but Tang So-wol interrupts, saying she actually went there out of her own free will. The Lord states he's even more disappointed by that, as the guy was supposed to protect his fiancée instead of throwing her into such danger. Listening to the patriarch's harsh words, the young swordsman just falls silent with a look of regret on his face. Cheon-hui offers sincere apologies for acting unilaterally and without considering the clan leader's warnings and intentions. He adds that his fiancée is the most precious person in his life and promises his father-in-law's fears will never become reality. Hearing that genuine declaration of love and resolve, Tang So-wol gets deeply touched, her cheeks flushing pink. Tang Jin-cheon lets out a long sigh and dismissively comments, "The guy really knows how to spin words to wiggle out of trouble." The Lord orders them to rest and recover, warning the clan will stick around Guangdong province for a few more days to wrap up loose ends. He reveals he captured a live demonic cult member during the clash and plans to interrogate him for answers. The patriarch admits the main leaders died, but says questioning any prisoner is way better than having nothing. Cheon-hui narrows his eyes hearing about the prisoner, starting to assemble a new plan in his mind super fast. He calls out to his father-in-law again, and the patriarch turns around asking what the young man wants that's so important. This time, Cheon-hui states with total seriousness that his presence will be absolute mandatory during that prisoner's interrogation. Both the patriarch and Tang So-wol stare at the teenager with deep confusion, trying to get the reason behind such an unexpected request. Night progresses quietly over the town, with the full moon lighting up the roofs of the property holding the prisoner. Inside one of the property's most private setups, lights start turning on to kick off the procedures. Traditional wooden sliding doors keep the area completely sealed off from any outside sound or interference. A dark stone staircase leads directly down to the basement, where the Tang clan's makeshift holding cell sits. In the cellar, the elderly prisoner sits tied up and kneeling in the center of the room, under the watchful eye of Tang Jin-cheon and his men. The old demonic cult prisoner maintains a look of pure hatred on his face, even while visibly battered and weak. Cheon-hui steps into the chamber announcing his arrival, and the patriarch greets him, mentioning the interrogation was already underway. The Lord explains a mental restriction prevents the prisoner from speaking, reminding him the guy claimed he knew how to shatter that seal. Cheon-hui nods calmly, confirming he really holds the necessary knowledge to undo that technique. The patriarch decides to save the questions for later and gives the young swordsman green light to proceed with his special method. The guy steps up to the elderly prisoner and presses his fingers firmly against his forehead to start the breaking process. He reflects that the demonic cult used unconventional techniques and mental lock methods completely outside standard mainland patterns. Cheon Hui recalls the cult's restriction binds a poisonous bug that inflicts pain in the mouth to a heavy mental suggestion to silence the target to break the seal. One must guide internal energy through the correct pressure points and pass sequentially through the 3 dantians. The prisoner begins coughing up blood from his eyes, nose, and mouth due to the violent shock of internal energy in his vital points. Right after, the teenager steps back from the bloody elder and announces to the clan leader that the seal-breaking process is complete. He warns the prisoner has barely 15 minutes of life or sanity remaining, making it critical to get answers within that window. Without losing a single second, Tang Jincheon takes charge and sharply orders the prisoner to state his name and rank in the cult. The elderly prisoner complies with immense difficulty, revealing his name is Yo Nung Hak and that he's the leader of the Black Dogs within the Divine faction. The Lord gets impressed by the success of his son-in-law's technique, as not even his truth poisons could get the old man talking earlier. With the prisoner ready to speak, the patriarch demands to know the real reason the cult targeted the Tang clan and So Wol. He answers with head bowed, revealing he heard the clan would become a massive roadblock for one person's master plan. The Lord inquires if the order came from the supreme leader, but the elder explains the enforcers acted on their own during that attack. Cheon Hui listens to everything carefully with a serious look, trying to decode the secrets and missing pieces in his memories. The Tang clan patriarch presses the elder even harder, demanding details on what exactly this mysterious master plan is about. With a bizarre, bloody smile on his face, the old prisoner starts revealing the terrifying truth behind the plot. The final reveal is that the grand plan aims for the complete destruction of Murim, turning the world into a feast of blood and revenge. Tang Jincheon lets out a heavy sigh, commenting that the madness of that demonic cult seems to be spreading once again. With his mind's gears turning fast, the young swordsman already knows exactly what the next question to ask should be. He reflects on Sama Surayon, remembering that before his regression she was way thinner and weaker, which made recognizing her tough. He notes the cult's plans match up with the heavenly demons, but spots subtle differences compared to his past life memories. He interrupts the patriarch asking permission to ask a final question, and the Lord authorizes right away, curious about the inquiry. With permission granted, Cheon Hui preps to ask the crucial question to the prisoner who's on the verge of dying. The young swordsman leans down before the old man and asks directly what realm of power the cult's leader has reached. Barely holding on to strength, the elder reveals the supreme leader of the cult has already reached the feared supreme demon realm. Cheon Hui listens to the answer in complete silence, processing the weight and immense danger of that valuable info. He reflects that reaching the Supreme Demon Realm means the enemy leader has already fully mastered the Harmony Realm. Tense silence hangs over the outer courtyard, while the demonic cult's mysteries begin unraveling in the chamber. Drops of blood keep slowly dripping onto the holding room's wooden floor, signaling the prisoner's imminent end. Suddenly, the old man's body completely loses strength, and his head slumps lifelessly forward, indicating he's passed away. The clan lord confirms the prisoner stopped breathing, but celebrates the fact that they managed to extract crucial intel. The teenager asks what the plan will be regarding the demonic cult, and his father-in-law comments the guy seems super eager for direct action. The patriarch explains that lacking direct proof of an official plot, the only safe move is warning the Murim Alliance to keep an eye on them. Hearing his father-in-law's cautious answer, Cheon Hui just lowers his gaze thoughtfully and agrees. Understanding the political situation, Tang Jincheon looks at his son-in-law sideways with suspicion, sensing the young guy is still hiding secrets about his vast knowledge. The Lord then calls for Captain Yom, who steps into the interrogation room, immediately responding to his master's call. Without needing to talk much, the clan leader just gives a subtle nod, passing a silent order to his captain. The Black Soul Squad. Captain reacts with surprise, instantly getting what needs to be done from that moment on. He offers a respectful bow before Tang Jincheon before stepping out of the room under the young swordsman's watchful eye. The warrior walks firmly and passes through the curtains dividing the room, stepping out to execute the mission assigned by the Lord. The patriarch turns to the teenager and mentions he decided not to dig into his past, but asks him to honestly answer a single question. He questions how the guy knew about the cult's mental lock, something not even the Tang clan's elite spy unit had knowledge of Cheon Hui, tries to brush it off talking about tavern rumors. But his father-in-law fires back seriously saying that excuse won't fly anymore. The Lord explains he doesn't doubt him, but warns any outsider would suspect a direct link between the guy and the demons. He adds he needs to know the truth to relay the info to the Murim Alliance and avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. The young swordsman narrows his eyes at his father-in-law's fair questioning, weighing the consequences of revealing the truth. He thinks to himself that he never imagined having to reveal he's a regressor, an absurd story nobody would easily buy. However, he realizes that facing the imminent threat of the demonic cult, it might actually be necessary to lay his cards on the table once and for all. He agrees to speak, but makes his father-in-law promise he'll believe every word unconditionally, no matter how wild the story sounds. Seeing the extreme seriousness in his young son-in-law's eyes, the Tang clan patriarch nods, gearing up to hear the reveal. The guy lets out a long sigh, trying to organize his past life memories to tell everything in the best way possible. He opens his mouth to start telling the truth about his mysterious time regression to the clan leader. The two remain face to face in the quiet chamber, waiting for the start of the unbelievable explanation about the future. Tang Jincheon keeps his eyes locked on his son-in-law, waiting with deep patience and focus for the start of his mysterious tale. The patriarch finds the guy's long silence weird and calls his name, trying to get why he stopped suddenly before speaking. Cheon-hui breaks into a cold sweat and his mouth opens, but not a single word manages to come out of his throat, leaving him completely locked up. His heart starts beating at an extremely wild, violent pace, while a terrible feeling of suffocation takes hold of him. His eyes widen in complete shock and terror as he realizes his own body is rejecting the attempt to speak about the future. The guy loses his balance and nearly falls to the ground, prompting the patriarch to take a startled step forward, asking what happened to him. Completely out of breath and pale, the young swordsman tries to take a deep breath while catching his strength after that mental shock. He grits his teeth with intense force, extremely frustrated with the invisible wall keeping him from speaking openly. The guy realizes the words simply won't come out and senses his own mind block the reveal at a deep subconscious level. His eyes widen, realizing the severity of the situation, trying to figure out the origin and cause of that mental block. Visualizing chains around himself, he realizes in horror that a powerful mental restriction was also secretly placed on him. He remembers that seal is a complex spell manipulation and that it'd be impossible for anyone to apply it to his body without him noticing. The guy asks himself desperately who did that and when, before his father-in-law calls him again, trying to snap him back to reality. Tang Jincheon firmly holds his son-in-law's shoulder and asks if he's okay, making the teenager snap, startled out of his thoughts. The swordsman apologizes for the hesitation, and his father-in-law tells him not to force it, promising to clear things up with the Murim alliance. Cheon-hui guarantees his past will never bring trouble to the Tang clan or Sowol, and his father-in-law nods, saying he gets it completely. The patriarch praises the young man's effort and orders him to finally go rest inside the property. As the mission was completed, the guy walks away in silence with a serious face, consumed by the tormenting question of who placed that mental restriction on his mind. The quiet night wraps around the Tang clan property, while new questions and quiet dangers start surfacing on Cheon-hui's horizon. Now in his room, Cheon-hui sits on the bed wearing his white sleeping clothes, still deep in thought over everything that happened. He laments that on top of all normal concerns, a totally unimaginable problem popped up to mess up his head for good. He circulates his chi and checks his body thoroughly, but finds zero physical anomalies, fearing not even his growth will fix this. The teenager deduces the lock only stops him from speaking about his time regression, which hints the seal's creator is a divine being. He ponders over the entities that would actually hold the power and authority required to send a human being back into the past. The guy asks himself if this block is the baggage he has to carry for defying celestial laws to gain a second chance. He closes his eyes for a brief moment, trying to soothe his own messy thoughts before finally turning in. Suddenly, the sound of the bedroom door squeaking open breaks the silence and makes Cheon-hui jump on the bed in surprise. To his surprise, Tang So-wol is the one timidly stepping into the room, also wearing her white sleeping clothes. With a sweet smile, she asks young hero Cheon-hui if he has a quick second to chat before going to sleep. He gets startled by her boldness and warns her about the danger if her dad finds out, but she just mocks his excessive worrying. She complains playfully, saying she waited for him all night, and since he went straight to his room without greeting her, she felt lonely. She asks if that explanation justifies her late-night visit. Leaving the young swordsman speechless and pretty flustered, Cheon-hui sincerely apologizes, admitting his mind was packed with worries and that he didn't have time to think clearly. She asks if the interrogation went sideways, but he explains everything went fine, though it's super tough to give her honest details. With a more serious, worried look, she asks if he really isn't going to tell her what's going on, no matter what. The guy guarantees it's not a lack of trust, but explains it's a simple matter he doesn't want making her worry unnecessarily. Cheon Hui flashes a tender, comforting smile to try and ease his fiance's heart once and for all. Tang Sowol watches him in total silence, trying to read what lies behind that gentle, mysterious expression on her fiancé. Breaking the silence, she slowly leans in and gently places her hand affectionately on the young swordsman's shoulder. Next, she climbs onto the bed and sits right in front of him, completely closing the distance between their bodies. With pure delicacy, she brings her warm hand up and cradles the guy's face in an extremely intimate, sweet way. She sweetly laments that poisons easily heal physical wounds, but no toxin is capable of dissolving mind anxiety. She finds it ironic and sad to possess the poison spirit body and be able to do everything with poisons, except cure her fiancé's worries. She flashes a warm, deeply affectionate smile, emanating an aura of pure sweetness and warmth toward the guy. Cheon Hui feels his heart flutter harder and turns slightly red, facing so much genuine affection from his fiancée. He accepts the warmth and hugs her back tenderly, commenting on how funny it is that he's being comforted by the person he should be comforting. The guy tells her not to worry, stating he doesn't need her special poisons, just Tang So-wol's presence itself. She jokes cheerfully about him being more expressive since the engagement, while he playfully fires back about her climbing into his lap. The young lady keeps her deep, affection-filled gaze locked on him, enjoying that moment of peace between them to the fullest. She moves even closer to her fiancé's face, making their breath nearly mix in the quiet of the dark room. The swordsman jokes, asking if she drank something before coming over, noting the distance between them is exceptionally short. Tang So-wol smiles sideways mysteriously and calls out the guy's name in a super soft, slow tone. Suddenly, she drops a super unexpected question, asking if by any chance he's seeing another woman through her. Cheon Hui is left completely deadpan and frozen, facing that sharp, mysterious question from his fiancée. Drop a like and comment for the next part.